Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of Insightful Conversations with your host, Krishna Radha. Today, our guest on the show is Nidhi Rice. Nidhi was born in Copenhagen. She met Osho in 1977 and took sannyas at the age of 26. Since then, she has been with Bhagwan and Poona ashram and on the ranch. She stayed in Poona until 1995, along with working for some part of the time in Denmark at a theatre academy. Nidhi is in process of writing about a captivating journey in her upcoming book. She was gracious enough to let me read few parts from her book. What I have read so far is delightful. Her writing is direct, simple, her experiences are distinctive. Nidhi had a rough start as a child, which resulted in intense energy shutdown, and now her work focuses on integrating emotions and awakening through creative self inquiry, which can then result in fully allowing your expression and your energetic flow. You can find her work on nidhiriceweebly.com, and I will be putting the link later on. So let's please welcome Nidhi.
Hello, Radha.
Hello. I wish I could do the drum roll for you. A friend suggested that.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
Mm.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited. Good to see you. It's good to be here.
Yeah, me too.
I
I'm
just
just
want
going to start with this question. Osho gave you the name Prem Nidhi,
Mm.
and he said something when he gave you the name. What did he say?
What I remember him saying was, love will be your treasure. Give your love to the sky and the clouds and the birds and yourself and everyone you meet.
Hmm.
Yeah. And that has been a great koan, really, in my life. And I
Hmm.
just learned so, I mean, I can see over time, how everything unfolds in a deeper way. And first it was like, felt like a personal thing, like personal love and to be loved. And what it is more now is like a connectedness to love, like
Yeah.
resting in the greater love. And then I'm showered and everything is showered.
Yeah.
Just like,
It's a beautiful name.
yeah.
Nidhi, when you met Osho, you were 26, and you've described when you first met and all the beautiful event around it and how you felt, and you were sitting in a hall. But you've also said that you've described Bhagwan as a true tantric guru. Can you explain that?
Well, there's so many, I mean, that's a huge subject. What I feel is it takes an enormous courage to focus on all energy in the body, not just the head, not just the heart, not just the base, but all of it, and not separate it, not make it the heart, but it is the energy that moves through the entire body. And in different places of the body, it has different colors, but
Mhm.
it's the same energy. And that is not something that's accepted. It's like it's divided into sexual energy. That's one box. Love is another box. Intellect is another box. But they don't go together, and some are allowed and some are not. And in our society, the heart is allowed and the head is allowed. But in many ways, the base, the sexual, what we call the sexual energy, which is the same thing, is not allowed.
Yeah.
So to really just invite everyone to allow this
Mhm.
will hit all these taboos and fears and veils where people don't see. I was just thinking about that, and I think Osho has talked about this also. Like a lot of it has to do with touch. In our society, we're not allowed to touch except if we're sexual or if we have a baby. I mean,
Mhm.
this is like a generalization, but it's, in a way deep in the cultures. So if you are to allow energy, like in the ashram I thought about often, we would meet and just not talk, but maybe just hug and hold each other, hug, and just relax into that for a long time without need to do anything, but to really rest together in an energy that was more than just the body. And at times there would be like the body would like go, this is nice, and that the energy would congregate in the heart or in the sex or something else. But very often it was just like this full energy. And I have never met anywhere else. I really haven't. Like even when I go to, growth centers and places like that, most people, not everybody, of course, but most people, they don't they don't want to relax their body
Mm.
completely. So there's like that deep relaxation into the totality, which is also Tantra, the totality, the wholeness. And Tantra is all the methods that can bring us to that wholeness depending on what our specific configuration is. I mean, we have different ways that we learn, but the Tantra methods contains everything anybody would need,
Yeah.
you know.
I think what is so great about your experience in the ashram commune and the ranches, there was a safety there, which people could then, like, sometimes I feel even when you feel that energetic vibe and you want to hug someone, your mind is always thinking, or maybe they will take it in a wrong way. They might not get you, and sometimes it always just ends up being sexual or otherwise, or they can think you're crazy or whatever, and you hold back. And I think that was allowed around where you guys were, and everybody was exploring that. That was beautiful. I During that time I also read that you were selected as a guard, to be near Osho when there were death threats around him, and you were very close to him, watching, for any of movements during the discourse. And I've always wanted to ask this question to a lot of sannyasins, especially women, but this is coming up for you. Osho was a very attractive man, not only just his energetic feel and everything. Isn't the first thought always to be attracted towards a man in a sexual way? Were a lot of sannyasins attracted towards him? And if it was so, how was it playing out?
It wasn't like that for me.
Okay.
And and I know that it's different for everybody. For me, it was different. He was like, I've been thinking about that, Radha, and it's like I can't even say he was a man.
Hmm.
He was more than that. He was this mystery that just touched me in unexpected
See
ways.
it right away when you meet him. He's not a person, and he's
Not
something
really.
beyond it.
I wouldn't say there's this big. He was not big actually. He was not very tall, but he was big in his energy. But it wasn't like, oh, there's this gorgeous man coming and sitting down. It wasn't like that at all. It was just like energetically, there was a presence there that had beautiful, deep eyes. And, there was that. There was an enjoyment of the beauty that
Mm.
his physical body exudes. But it wasn't like a man woman thing at all, except for one time, actually, which is funny. I remember sitting in discourse and he was doing or saying something, and suddenly I felt my energy like being like going down in my base and all the way up, and I went like, wow, I never felt this. And and it was like, I don't know what that was all about, and it was like just a happening,
Mm.
but it's a mystery in a way. It's a mystery. I feel like that a person like Bhagwan or a teacher or a master, it's a mystery.
Mhm.
It's not something you can. I've had moments with him where I looked in his eyes and suddenly everything was gone. Everything was gone. There was nothing there. So it's like you. grasping for something like a man or something, but there's nothing there. That's not what it is about. It's about this,
Mm.
it's about this mirroring or this emptying.
Mm.
I'm thinking, it stopped me if I just go off on tangents, but
No,
I was,
please.
yeah, I was thinking like at the ranch, in the ranch time, I was working in the garden,
Mm-hmm.
this garden, and it was just two of us that worked there.
Mm-hmm.
And that meant that we had to be there before he left for his drive-by and before he came back. And I never had a break. I never had a break to go out and see my friends that had come from all over the world. And I was getting more and more upset about it. I really felt like I was caged in. I was getting angry and quite enraged and feeling that it was because of Bhagwan. I knew it wasn't, but it felt like that. I didn't know where to express it, where to put it. And then I remembered he had said, just give it all to me. Just give it all to me. Let me have it. Don't carry it. And it was like I was boiling. And he was coming out of his house before his own gate, and I was standing in it, and I was just raging inside. And I felt like I can't give this to him. But I heard this voice of him as I just give it to me. And I put my head up and I looked in his eyes. He was looking right at me. And I just felt all this rage coming out through my eyes. And then everything went away. His eyes were gone. There was nothing there. And I just fell. I fell on the ground. He was gone. And my whole body just let go. And I was just sobbing. And I didn't understand what it was, but it was just this huge relaxation. And it was all washed. And it was almost like just being so total, I guess,
Mm.
without feeling transforms it. And that I found in my work later on. If we can come to it, like, and Bhagwan said that also, do whatever you do, but be total. Be total, you know? And it's not something we can just do. We sometimes have to build up to totality.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a totality there. And there was an experience of, in that totality, it's gone. There's just that relaxation, that depth, and that widening.
Mm.
And that was kind of a practical experience of that. That is also a mysterious experience.
Yeah.
Can't really explain it. There's so much, you
Yeah.
know.
I think that's when I asked you the question. He was a I feel like a lot of his ways were so mysterious, and they still are. It's hard to fathom what he was doing, and he
Mm,
was so. You also, when you went to Poona and the whole surrounding is new, you land up from west to east, which is like two different worlds on the outside. Um, and of course, we will go into your childhood and how that played along in this whole thing, but later on. But you were feeling kind of a little lost, not belonging to that place. And then comes Paritosh. You and I think I find that meeting so beautiful. Um, it's I don't have words to describe it, but it touched my heart thinking that somebody can give someone what they need without exploitation or just giving, just giving.
mhm.
Do you want to talk about it?
Sure. And I also want to say that it wasn't, I was much less lost than I had been for, like, I had been very intensely exploring inside
Yeah.
for about 13 years,
Mm.
got there. And I felt very included with
Okay.
Osho, incredibly included. I felt more, I felt joy really for the first time since I was a baby. And I felt there had been so many moments of just this depth of goodness and loving and intimacy around Bhagwan already then. And then I went into a period where I got really depressed. That was what happened. After a while, I was working in the mala shop, and our hours had been made longer It used to be that I could go to Kundalini, which I loved, but suddenly we had to work till dinner, and after darshan we had to come back. So it was
Mm.
like we got the pressure put on us. That's also another way he
Yeah.
worked. But it can work in that kind of. So there was like being pushed more and more and more. And for me, sitting in the mala shop, I would be working at a lathe to cut wood and to make the malas and the boxes. That meant that I had to have my eyes covered, my mouth covered, and something in my ears. So I felt very like
Mm.
pressed,
Mm.
and it got worse and worse. And it was just like I didn't know what. It was just gray and endless.
Mm.
I wrote Bhagwan about it, and he said, "Go see Paritosh." And then he spoke in discourse about how he uses his people to be him. He works through his people.
Mm.
And that was very beautiful. But like for me with Paritosh, we both, like, my background is Jungian Depth Psychology. I spent 10 years very involved in that.
Mm.
Paritosh is a Jungian depth psychologist. He was also a monk and a gorgeous, gorgeous human being, just totally. Um, but he was somehow in the ashram, he was part of almost like a therapeutic aspect.
Mhm.
So I went to see him, and it was just like having somebody who just adored being with you. From the moment you got up to his room, he would just like beam. And it was like, oh, I'm so glad to see you. Come sit down, and I can't wait to hear what is happening. And you want a cup of tea? And on days where I was really depressed, he said, you want a little whiskey? He was Scottish, and he always had I got a really good whiskey. So he, so like I'd be all warmed up, and then if it was really bad, he said, just come again after lunch, like, oh, come and eat lunch with me, or come and have dinner with me. So it's like I started feeling that I had an anchor, that was a loving place, a nurturing, loving place. Um, that was just there, nothing I had to ask for. He kept inviting, and enjoying being with me, and somehow appreciating what came out of me, no matter what it was. And there was also and it was beautiful being inside the ashram. I lived right next to the ashram, in an ashram housing, and it was very beautiful too. But to be in just in the very center, where you could hear everything, you could hear all the sounds, and it never really stopped.
Mhm.
I felt so embraced by
Yeah.
the being there with him. He lived in like right in the middle. Yeah, and then there were times like that's what I wrote about too, where like I slept there because I didn't want to go home at night. I said, that's fine. He said, yeah, that's fine. You can sleep here. And like he would crawl up in his bed, and there was like a big mosquito net, and he would crawl up and make sure that I had blankets, and just being treated as a child.
Yeah.
That was
That's
adored,
what I thought. Yeah.
which I never had.
Yeah.
And it was just like, and it came in. The part of me that needed that so badly really drank it in. So it was so rich for me. And then it also, like, there was like he would take his teeth out and put them in a glass of water, and it was like, oh. And then like, he would just hold me, and we would just spoon, and it was such a good sleep, just feeling so safe.
Yeah.
There was a time where I felt like, oh, I just want him so close, so close. I wanted him to make love to me. And he said, oh, Nidhi, oh, thank you for asking me, but I can't do that.
Mm.
And I thought, oh, he can't do that. He's too old. Much later did it dawn on me, like, maybe that was not part of his job. That was like real, beautiful boundaries. It was just
It was
very
so innocent. It was so innocent.
innocent and pure and clean, and just
Yeah.
love.
Mm.
No, 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 yeah,
That's what I liked about that story. That there was so much innocence there, and we are all capable of it.
yeah,
It just gives a hope that we are all capable of it.
yeah, beautiful. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Um, there are various things throughout your book, and I think we should probably go into your childhood, because otherwise the viewers might not have a context. You want to tell me a little bit about your childhood, how it was, and what shaped you, or
Yeah. So, when I go back really far, like what I remember, what has come, like been very, like a strong experience for me was that I really wanted to come in. And I really, I remember this feeling of my mother and father making love and an incredible sense of light and love and being just pulled in, just like in an ecstatic way. Just this feeling, I want to go there.
mm,
And then landing and going, what what happened? What did I do? Kind of
mm,
thing. What I felt trapped from the
mm,
moment I got in. And it's a strange situation, but that's the best way I can explain it.
mm,
And I don't know that my mother wanted a child at all.
mm.
She had a very uh, wild relationship with my father, and he was not easy to hold on to.
Nidhi, can I just ask you? Sorry to
Yeah,
cut you in between, but I read some of Osho's lectures on this, and I was raised in the East in Poona, um, and then I came here to the West, US. So sometimes I've had two kids here. I feel like the concept of motherhood, it's exploited on both sides, but in East it's kind of put on such a high pedestal that you're not allowed to go through the levels, and you're just expected to be all giving and all. But in the West it's seen it as a utilitarian, like, do we get out of something out of this? And a woman is limited to a girlfriend or a lover or a wife, and not really seen it as a mother, because that doesn't really bring any utility to the economy. Or do you think your mother was also a victim of that? Or do you think, if she was trying to please the men and just be what the society expected her to be?
I love what you're saying, Radha. It's very beautiful, and it's something that's really important, and it's a big area that, in a way, that really touches me, being spoken from you. And going back to my mom, I think it's a little different. I think she was not really allowed to be in her own body as a nurturing place.
Mm,
There was some very rough things in her own life too, and she got to be very strong, very independent. Nobody's going to care for me. I'm going to care for myself. You
mm,
know, she had that very strong, and I think she was very sexual
mhm,
and very beautiful.
mm,
So she was like using her beauty and wanting something, and it was not easy to keep it. It was, I don't know. She's very different than me, and it's always been hard for me to understand her. She's a
mm,
very different animal. So, but anyway, it, it was not easy for her, for sure.
mm,
And it was not like a longing in her heart and body to be a mother. That
mm,
that you know. And so she got pregnant with me, and she got me, and I have some stories from her. She never really wanted to talk about it, but she thought I was really ugly when I was a child and looked like an old man, and that it was not very appealing stories she told her little girl. It was
mm,
like, oh. And I was very sick from the beginning. I came in with a big red mark across my liver,
mm,
um, which I think is from another time where I got killed like that in my last life, but that's something that's come on later. But she didn't want that. She was very into how you looked and how the body looked, and I was going to be wearing a bikini when I grow up. So she wanted that gone. So they did a lot of work with radiation, which is horrendous, actually, going back and realizing what was done. They implanted little things into the body, and it went away. But what it meant for the little one was that I was in hospital
mm,
a lot to have things done that was not by my mother or feeling safe or feeling nurturing at all. It was very scary.
mm,
Also, I got a hepatitis. I had hepatitis so much. I was in and out of hospital for 3 times, seriously on wards where you got isolated. So
Mhm.
that this very early being disconnected and being in a scary place for me. And then when I finally came home, my mom couldn't. We had been in the Fairy Islands. My dad was like a something that's like like a very important figure there that does all the judging and everything. But he was not reliable, and he was drinking and having other women. And my mom had a nervous breakdown, and I was about a year and some months, a year and a half maybe. And she had to come back to Copenhagen, and she was really in not a good state, and she couldn't have me. She had to find work. So she found a kind of a home that was kind of an orphanage where there was about
Mhm.
50, 75 other kids, where I then got to be. And that was like a big trauma also for this little one that already missed her mom so bad. So a
Yeah.
lot of things shut down very early on. There was a lot of shutdown of very early things that were still in development, really, because
Mhm.
our body is still developing, and if we have to shut things down, something gets not fully educated.
Survival, right? You just clamp up for survival, probably.
Yeah, otherwise you can't go on. It's just for a child, it's too overwhelming. A little child cannot fend for itself.
Mhm.
No, so and it can't. I have just memories of crying and crying and crying and crying and nothing, 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 and just this feeling of I'm not going to be able to sustain myself. And it's not words. It's an interior feeling from the little animal child. That's I
Yes.
can't get food. I can't get nurturing. I can't get nearness. It's like I'm gonna give it up. You know. So these places gave it up, but the
Mhm.
body still kept going with all these places inside, just frozen. So, and it can work some strange way. But I always felt as a child that something was strange. It was like I had a lot of feelings that I wasn't really there. A sense of that everything else was going on out there, but I wasn't really in it.
Mm.
And I was also a very sensitive child. So I
Mm.
felt things. Like I remember there was a time I was also really little, and I was standing or lying next to a couple, and there was a lot of love. There was like a strong love energy, and I felt it, and I just felt bathed in it. I felt like this is what I want. Something in me was putting all its little antennas towards that,
Mhm.
that quality, and it's something I remember. It was kind of like a guiding light in my life from
Mm.
very early on. So, and like it really, like, I don't know, I kind of managed and I did things, and I was an active child and did a lot of acting out through playing. I would sit at my girlfriend's piano and sing like
Mm.
crazy and play the piano, even though I couldn't play it. But I would
Mm.
play it full on and sing. So there's a lot of expression. And
Mm.
I have like little dolls where I would make up stories, and they would, that sort of stuff would come.
Mm.
So very creative. There was a lot of creativity that
Mm.
probably kept things moving. I don't
Mm.
know. It's like a miracle sometimes how we keep going and what it is that helps us. There's so much helping these souls that we are, I feel. Not just
What
me.
is so amazing is, even as a little child, you knew how to. You knew that if I sing, I'm going to feel better. You
Some
knew,
Yeah.
uh, yeah,
You know,
you,
sorry.
yeah, you knew that expression will help you get through this. That is a miraculous thing that we all know, even though when we are in the toughest of situations, and sometimes a situation like you where all you wanted was probably love, and that was the thing lacking.
Right. And also, sound has a lot of love in it. It's like sound vibrates you on the inside.
Hmm.
Something in my system knew that we need to do this to
Mm.
get some of this. It's in a way the body finding out how to give it to itself,
Hmm.
and I also, like, I remember I came back to my mom after some years. She came and picked me up, and I got back, and it
Hmm.
was very difficult. She was gone a lot, and I was alone at night as a 4 or 5 year old little child, and just like not an easy situation. But I had a home, and she cared for me as best she could.
Yeah.
And I was fed and I was clothed, but she was also very angry and very frustrated, and it was my fault because I was in her way and she couldn't do what she wanted and she had to take care of this child, and it
Mm,
was not her dream job at all, you know.
mm, mm.
So we had that dance, my
Yeah.
mother and I, you know, and I was just thinking of one thing. No, that's fine.
Go ahead if you want to say
No,
something.
I was just thinking where we lived in Copenhagen, we lived in a little apartment in the middle of town with a lot of noise. And no. But we had a neighbor, and he was playing the harp,
Mm,
and he played at the Royal Orchestra, and he would rehearse, and I would stand outside his door as a little girl
mm,
and just listen to him playing the harp because it was so beautiful and somehow so nurturing. And one time he opened the door just by incident, and he saw me there, and it's like, "Oh, you want to come in?" He was a beautiful man. He was like this tall bird-like figure. So he
mhm,
let me come in, and I sat there in his beautiful room, and he would just play the harp.
mm,
And, you know, that for me is magic too. It's like an angel, you know? So there's all these little stones, little rocks,
mhm,
river
mhm.
that you can kind of touch and get get help by, get support by.
Mhm.
Many, many of those in
Yeah.
my life too. Yeah.
So you went to the Royal Danish Theatre Academy and you worked on the Danish stage and films. And you've also studied at the Stanislavski. Do I say it right?
Stanislavski. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was part of the education. That it
Yeah.
was, yeah.
So what is acting for you?
Yeah, it was very, it was not planned at all. I had a very good friend in school, and suddenly he found out that that was what he wanted to do, and he wanted me to help him. So he started studying for some roles, and I gave him the keywords. I thought it was great. It was fun. I was just in my groove, you know. And then he wanted me to come do it at his test. There was going to be a series of tests. Like lots of people, like 500 people, were trying to get in. It was like when the Royal Theatre was closing down their school and opening another one that was super cutting edge. It was a
Mm,
super cutting edge situation. It
mm,
was very amazing. But anyway, he contacted them and he said, "You can only do that with a person who's also applying."
mm,
So I said, "That's fine. I'll just apply."
mm,
That was kind of how it worked. But
mm,
then we started getting into it, and I also had to do two roles.
mm,
So I did it, and I really loved it. I
mm,
loved getting into my feelings. I
mm,
loved being allowed to have feelings, big
mm,
feelings, which was one of the things I felt numb in many ways.
mm,
It was much better at that time, but it was I was still really working on that. And we ended up both getting in. There was like 7 or 8 people that got in out of 500, you know.
wow,
So it
that's
was,
wonderful.
yeah, and it was no effort really on my part.
Mm,
It was like, you know, it's one of these things. If
mm,
it's meant to happen, it'll happen. And it was fantastic being there. So for me, acting was a lot about exploring my own interior, exploring a human being. You know, you cannot act a person if you don't love it somehow. You have to find something to love in what you portray.
mm,
Otherwise, it's never going to work. So for me to love different aspects, different characters, I would have to find it in me. You know, find something I could love.
mm,
It was also very much about expression and
mm,
being exploring feelings and being allowed to really go full out in all kinds of ways. And we there was amazing things we learned there. I wrote about the mask, you know, that I think you read, which was a deep meditative experience. But there's also like Gurdjieff would have exercises that we use that you can access feelings just through your breath.
mm,
You know, so you can access fear, you can access anger, you can access grief, you can access sexuality and stillness. And
mm,
it's like you can go through them one by one. And for
mm,
me, it was amazing because it's like, wow, it's in my breath, but it's not necessarily me,
mm,
you know? So that's that whole thing beginning to see, wow, this is not necessarily me, or I can play a part, but it's not necessarily me. But I can still engage it and become alive there. You know what
mm,
I mean? It's like
mm,
also a way of learning that it's not who I am.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
So yeah.
Then after that, from there, you went to Esalen Institute in California. It still exists in Big Sur. It's a holistic retreat center, and they do group therapies. And you plunged yourself into those group therapies. One therapy that I read a lot of those, but the one that I want to ask you today is the mother song therapy. And when you sang, the therapy was about basically a mother singing a song to the child, putting her to bed, and you guys were supposed to sing the words. And when you sang those words, something in you broke. You say a warrior like state, and you just kind of opened up. And what I find beautiful about that experience is when you write that when you opened up, goodness was flowing into you in an effortless way. That sentence just stuck with me. What was that feeling? What was happening with you in that therapy?
Ah, I had done a lot of therapy before I got to Esalen. I was part of a group that, like an experimental group, that was also where I connected to Osho. So that was after all that. And what it was at Esalen was more like this woman was actually just what it was inviting a song that is coming up for you.
Hmm.
So it wasn't like she directed me with a song,
Okay.
but allow a song that is in you. And like for me right now, it would be, oh, what a beautiful morning, beautiful day.
Mhm.
So that would be my song in this very moment. And you might have one too,
Mhm.
that is just, but that is a mirror of what is in the system.
Mhm.
And for me, the song that came up was this beautiful old Danish song about a flower that opens up to the light.
Mhm.
And it's like a child being in the arm of its mother.
Mhm.
Something that, beginning to sing it, there was so much grief.
Mhm.
Just and it came up through my voice because when we sing and breathe,
Mhm.
not touch our feelings. So that's why that's such a beautiful way of working. You
Mhm.
allow yourself to sing and not sing it nice, but sing it real.
Mhm.
Just be with what it is. And that was what she did with me, and I felt very safe with her. She was very motherly, and I think that may be why it came from me. And when I came into the room, she was very relaxed, and she said, "Come sit with me. Just come over here and sit with me." And I sat with her, and she put her arm around me and just kind of helped me. And that was just a space that was there.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I leaned my head on her shoulder, and she said, "Sing me something that's coming up. Just let yourself just explore what song is there right now and sing it." So I started just singing very relaxed. And she just sat there with me, and then it opened up, and it was really deep because
Mhm.
there's much relaxation and, like what you say, a sense of safety and
Mhm.
understanding that there's no way to go, and it's the body directing its own path, really.
Mhm.
It needs a fertile ground to do that in. And she said to me, she helped me for a long time, and she said to me afterwards, "I've never been like this with anybody that I work with." She said, "I haven't been so physical, but for some reason, my whole system wanted to be so physical with you,
Mhm.
stroking me a lot and letting me be her little baby for that while.
Mhm.
And that was beautiful. And I was in love with her. you know. So that's also what happened. So it's like, I mean, it wasn't like I was in love with her as a woman to a woman.
Yeah.
It wasn't like
Yes.
that. But I loved her very much. And she was another one of these beautiful women that has been helping me find mothering and
Yeah.
that feels like inside. Yeah.
You also, during that time, met someone, and you describe it in your book, a particular incident, how you got to know him, and you. I like it because that chapter is called Desire, and it speaks everything about desire and how a space can be held by someone, and you are allowed in that spaciousness too. Do you want to talk about it?
Sure. So what once before it, and what had happened for me before, was I had been doing also in Denmark a lot of Reichian body work, where you really work deep in the tissue and let your body go to places that you haven't been to and kind of explore what is there, but through touch and pressure.
Mm,
And I had gotten to a place when I got to Esalen, I couldn't speak. It was like my jaw was just like going up and down for 2 weeks, and I just had to be with speak, you know. So it was like this total surrender in a way that I had to give it up,
mm,
try to be a normal person. I was
mm,
not a normal person in that way. I was very out, out with everything. It wasn't like I was, you know, I was not hiding my frozenness. It was
mm,
right out there, you know.
mm, mm,
It was okay. You could be like that there. Like in the ashram, you could be like that. So a
mm,
safe place for sure is super needed, you
mm,
know. So that was what was happening for me. And it wasn't all the time real strong, but it was a lot.
mm,
And I had connected with him very deeply right on when I got there. And it was a very deep connection from the beginning
mhm,
that was very in the heart, but also in the body and sexual. And you know, often I would get so confused. I'm describing that too. Like I would get this strong impulse and color, you know, like you get all vitality and color and there's pink and you feel alive and you move towards somebody and then it would cut off. That was
mm,
the experience. And I would just stand there in the middle of my outgoing and there was nothing there. I had
mm,
nothing. It was like I had just stopped. And I experienced that a lot and it was very difficult. And like, so, but with him, I just kept exploring it. And we
mm,
had beautiful moments where it would open up and it was just there, but also long moments where it wasn't. And that night I'm describing is I really wanted to be with him. And I was scared of this happening, that I would like be all open and then cut off. And I got there and I was just like this. And I just told him, I said, I'm just like, I don't know what's happening, but I really wanted to be here. Is it okay? And he said, sure, it's okay. I love you to be here. I have many things I can do. Just be here. So I would just lie down on his floor and just, it felt so safe and good that I could just be my wobbly self. And then it kind of arose in me, in my wobbly self, that I wanted to make love. I wanted that full contact, to be really close all over. And I just said, I don't know if this is going to hold. I said, I want to make love with you. And I don't know if it's able to hang together. He said, it's okay. It's okay. And he just sat behind me and he started massaging my neck and my whole body just started going. And then after a long while, a lot of waiting, a lot of patience, no pressure at all, you know. It's like my whole body just started shaking. And it's
mm,
like kind of rose up. And I started feeling enormous sexual energy. And it
mm,
was feeling of a Kali, you know. And I
mm,
felt like, ah, but it was so strong. And it was like
mm,
something you cannot just have. But it was like I could eat everything. It was like I could eat him, eat everything. Like this sense of, you know, I've heard this like a man eater.
yeah.
Felt like that, but it wasn't refreezing. It wasn't a, it's funny, we just froze. It wasn't a bad thing. It was just what was there. I
Mm,
felt that energy of devouring with my entire body and my sex center and my leg and my you know, my mouth. It was all like in my mouth and my hands and my sex center. I just
mm,
wanted to devour,
mm,
you know, and to allow that was like, whoa, what is this, you know? But it just was there. There was nothing I could do about it. But I understood something. I understood something about that hunger inside that is so basic,
mm,
human, natural, animal, pure,
yep.
beautiful. But it can also be like ferocious,
Mm-hmm.
probably because it was not fed. It was never fed. And this was who came out. She was never fed this part, you know.
Mm,
And we just and it was just that I was just in that red river. And we just started making love and it was incredible. It was just like so much lust and ecstasy and hunger and eating it in and
Mhm.
enjoying it, and then it just got lighter and lighter and wider and wider, and it just ended in this incredible stillness. So I've had these incredible teachings on the way, energetic teachings. Through moments like that,
Mhm.
very much from starting in places where I felt very untogether and very pulled apart in a way,
Mhm.
exposed and vulnerable in that exposure. But I was not stopping that because there was no, I wanted it. I wanted whatever it took. So there was that beautiful longing and single pointedness that in a way was established through my childhood's deprivation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that chapter because these moments are so raw, and usually it scares people off
Mhm.
or the patience wears off. Um, and both of those things happened. You allowed it, the moment allowed it, and you both were patient enough to explore that. It was beautiful. I think like instead people watch so much porn nowadays, they should watch all this and they would know what really it means to be loved and receive love, even if it is lustful. That's why I like this
Mhm.
chapter a lot.
It's beautiful, Radha. And also what you say about allowing it and having the patience and somebody not running away.
Yeah.
I think that's a really big part that needs to be trust, and
Mhm.
then to be a focus on just allowing something to unfold.
Yes.
Like if you really go to tantric schools, there are tantric schools still. There's one
Mhm.
in Denmark also, a
Mhm.
very strong, deep tantric school. People
Mhm.
work like this. They work like this with their sexuality. You
Yeah.
know, they allow and they go through the sexual energy and work with all these different manifestations. And it's very often these Indian goddess, gods and goddesses
Yeah.
that come out physically. So this
Yes.
is not just made up. This is energetically true.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, and I don't know that Osho went that far where we were in the ashram, but for some people, I'm sure there was enough awareness,
Mhm.
but he worked on a very large scale with a very, very diverse group of
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think somehow I feel like he was laying down the foundation and clearing up a lot of things for further evolvement. And I don't think it stops here or when he left. It's just gonna keep on. The ripple effect is gonna keep on, and so
Mhm.
I think Bhagwan has done a huge amount of. It was his compassion that he started this whole thing.
And an incredible courage. I mean, that's something that I feel very often, how huge his contribution is and how courageous it is.
Mm.
I don't
Mm.
know of anybody who's been sticking a stick into a beehive like he
Mm.
has with
Mm.
something that is so basic and so reactive. Like I've been working with creativity for
Mhm.
most of my life, and just going into our creativity,
Mhm.
creative energy brings
Mhm.
up so much resistance, defense, protection. And this was on a like universal scale
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
all kinds of religions and all kinds of um, what is that called? Our conditionings.
Yeah.
So I find it like huge. It's huge.
Uttering the word sex itself was like, whoa, what is this man talking, or who is this person? And a spiritual person with such a big, large following. And I feel a lot of gratitude for what he's done and opened up for us to talk like this. I don't think I would be sitting here and talking to you if it wasn't for Bhagwan and Osho too.
Right.
If I wouldn't have read his book and my mind would have opened up, I would still be stuck that sex is bad. Don't talk about it. It's just something you do and then you forget about it. So
Yeah. Yes. Mhm.
so and I just sincerely hope, because for women especially, I think men somehow, I don't know, the way India has found out is you do yoga and you do meditation and you can be alone and you you can still find a way. But I have not found very many women, even in India, who became those yogis or who could go into mountains and just sit and attain. And that's why we don't see very many mystics who were women. There are few, but a lot of them also attained through love. Like Meera, she went crazy in love with Krishna and the devotion. But just go, and I'm sure there are some yoginis and all, but the major part of women's psyche is you need love. You want to express through your body. And my love for Osho is because he gave women that freedom and that power.
He put it down to the earth.
Mm-hmm,
This
mm-hmm,
very place, the lotus paradise, this very body, the Buddha.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And that's what we've been missing. I mean, there's one thing that is like all the spaciousness and the male path,
mm-hmm,
but then there's the life here,
mm-hmm,
the body, and it's coming down into the body, and that's
mm-hmm,
what I'm feeling as a woman, and that's the female part, and
mm-hmm,
I feel it's really coming in now. But
yeah,
that's also the difficult part, because
mm-hmm,
that's where all the emotions are and the triggers are, and you
mm-hmm.
cannot just cut that off. This is Tantra too. You don't
Yes,
cut anything out. There's
yes,
nothing that's bad. It's all welcome. Okay, this too, you know? And that's it. The wholeness. I
yeah.
love it. I mean, for me, that is so, yeah,
Yeah, me too. I love this, that you are allowed to feel whole. You're allowed to, but there's also another thing that I was reading a post on the Facebook by someone, I think Prem Shunyo, and she had written in her Diamond Days that how the jealousies between women, and Bhagwan was saying it in his discourse, that it kind of destroyed his first commune. Then he did the second, and it was again the jealousies. And then he's doing the third one and the last one. And it got me to thinking that yes, men compete with each other and they have all kinds of wars. The whole world suffers, and we see that. But even if the power has to transfer, say, to a feminine, energetic way, it wouldn't be uh, less destructive, because jealousies would come into play, and women have to accept that and really go deeper into it, that what makes you jealous, why this competition. And I've seen this even in my schools, colleges, growing up. If there's a beautiful woman, she is just brought to, like, people hate her, the women will hate her, and the men will also hate her, because if they can't have her, then they will tear her to pieces. So it's that jealousy thing, that is so deep in us. We cannot accept what we don't have, and we cannot let everything, in a way. So meditation does help there, as you said.
that's the whole thing. That's
Yeah.
the thing, rather, I feel. It's like we have all these human,
Mm-hmm.
very, very understandable
Mm-hmm.
emotions and pulls and pushes.
Mm-hmm.
So this is to be embraced. I mean, that he also says that you have to love yourself and
Mm-hmm.
watch. We have all these subject object things that are all the time playing out inside of us that needs a bigger space, that is just one space where they can all be in and rest into and melt into. So it's like a way of, but how I feel it is, when we begin to see that, it's like we're not so identified, or I have experienced. Then suddenly I'm not so identified with this. I can see that it's a pattern that was learned very early on. It's my conditioning. It's my
Mm-hmm.
structure, ego, whatever you want to call it. But there's more, and that's like what Bhagwan offered us every morning for 2 hours or more, sitting in that more,
Mm-hmm.
bigger space that could in a way hold everything. We touch into it in different ways.
Yes.
But that is the space. It's not a person or me that needs to hold it or fix it. It doesn't need to be fixed. It
Yeah.
just needs to be seen. It needs to be understood. And it needs to be given space to melt into something that is different. It's
Yeah.
like also he says you can't fix the mind with the mind, or you can't fix the structure, the ego with the ego. Is there something that is different than that? And
Do you
that's,
think,
Yeah.
Do you think touch can play a big role in this? Because you cannot fix a mind with a mind or an ego with an ego. The thing that comes up in my mind is, have you, I don't know if you know about bonobos. They're like a species of chimpanzees, um, but it's a matriarchal society. And there was a documentary I saw about them, and basically in that society everything is about touch. They have very less physical boundaries. Like if they get into an argument, they touch each other, and they get um, also sexual. So and then the tension melts away for them. So, and the opposite is chimpanzees. They will just like kill. They are like brutal. They'll just go kill that person if there's, and the bonobos are like this. And it's a little bit more evolved society, and it's a very small species somewhere in Africa. And sometimes it makes me wonder, not exactly on those lines, but can touch become a healing?
See, so it's not, it sounds simple, but it
Mm,
is simple. And many times we have to experience our resistance to that, our fear of that. It can have so many little under layers.
mm,
It can't be ignored either. We cannot just say, oh, that's fine. I'm just going to drop my jealousy. No, you know, but to be gentle with it is a good start. And
mm,
then sometimes by grace, it can drop and we can see that the love is there. It's like
mm.
reconnecting to that space for me, if that makes sense. So,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Do you think group therapies and generally that they help people to identify these underlying small things and makes them a little bit more loving and accepting?
I mean, they can for sure, big time. I think also just for all of us to share honestly what's happening in us and not try to be something we're not. And that's often what group therapy also is, that you have a circle of people that openly, because there's a safe space created,
Hmm.
openly say, this is really hard for me and I feel this, and sometimes I feel like a real bitch, or sometimes I feel really scared, or it becomes relaxed because it's not being shooed away.
Mm,
And that can also make us see that we're not so different. We
mm,
all want love and we all often scared of things, and we react with bracing or anger or cutting off, and but not make it, not try to be above human beings,
mm,
because we're not. It's more about loving the human being, loving our ways that we have found to deal with things that were really difficult in our lives, because that's also what it is. It's like it was our superpower to be able to cut off when something hurt too much, or
mm,
get angry when we felt our boundaries were not
mm,
respected. It's there's nothing wrong in it. It's just we make it wrong. I remember Bhagwan saying, I never forgot that. I'm just like you. The only difference is I love myself.
mm,
You know, it's like if I can love myself in all these places where I've been told to hate myself or to like push myself away, there's no problem.
mm.
That it feels like a real deep key to me. But then how do we do that? Yeah.
Yeah. That brings me to this. How do you weave through this delicate energy formation that we all call sex or life energy until it takes form of creative expression? Like, what was your way?
Ah, yeah, right. Being like a scream bucket, being like doing Russian therapy, just scream at the top of my lungs and hammer my fist into things, get that frozen energy just moving. Like,
Hmm.
but one has invited us to do that in the dynamic meditation. I
Hmm.
mean, that's another super courageous thing, to invite hundreds of people at the same time to go nuts like that. It's like, whoa. So, but for me, that was what helped me. I needed to. And in every place I've been, I've always made sure that I had a space I could go and be private. At Esalen, I would have a group room. I had the key to it. I could go there anytime and scream my lungs out if I needed to move something. You know, it's not about throwing it on somebody else, but I needed to go throw it somewhere, not to get strangled in it. And the same in the ashram in Poona. I had the key. Vidya gave me the key. to the go down, and I could go down there anywhere, anytime I wanted, and just pound the walls and do whatever until it softened up, and I could get to a softer place in my belly and my heart and feel the vulnerability under all that and the fear, So that has helped me.
Mm.
I mean, we may be all different. Some people might go for a long distance run, or they might want to go swim, or, be different. But for me, that's been my way. And then even, with creativity, I feel it's also a creative. If you consider it an inquiry and just go to your space, to your inquiry space, and start inquiring in a creative way. That can be like roaring or moving or doing whatever, saying things, but it's being created. It's being allowed creation. It's being allowed manifestation. It's not being kept back. It's being allowed to move. And my experience with this is that when I start moving something, it doesn't stay stagnant, because we are not stagnant. If a river is moving, it keeps moving. So if I find a way to unplug the stoppage, it might be very vomity, that what comes out first. But little by little, it clears, and it becomes more and more like a song or something beautiful or something that comes from the heart. But it has to be allowed in the different stages it's in. It cannot be no note. So that's strong for me, allowing and accepting what comes out, not judge it. Just allow it. It's just life. It's just life that's been disappointed. It's life that's been crushed. It's life that's been held back and frozen. Please just let it move. It's gorgeous, just life.
Yeah.
And I thought that was Bhagwan's teaching too.
Yeah.
But he wasn't teaching to go hurt each other either. That's not what it is. And there's a watching something from a place of accepting and not judging. Yeah.
It's a very revolutionary way what he did, how he did. It's
Mm-hmm.
unheard of in the past human history of how he was trying to heal us. Um, I also wanted to go to this unusual meeting you had with Sarah Jano when you were
Mm-hmm.
in the ashram. And yeah, tell us about it if you would like.
Yeah, it was just I put that in there just to give a sense of energy and the way things happen there. And again, that has to do with there wasn't this division between the different areas in the body. Energy was approached in a fuller way and more allowed. And you could touch somebody's face or just enjoy them or touch their hand or just enjoy that or just enjoy their energy. But a lot about feeling the energetic presence. And it was one night I came out of darshan, I'd been guarding, and I just sat on the wall outside, and somebody came, sat next to me. I didn't even really know who it was at first, but I just know something felt really, really good. Like my body was drawn,
Mm,
and there was no words at all.
mm,
My body was drawn and feeling rested, and my heart opened fuller, and there was just this energetic synchronicity.
mm,
And then we kind of just both turned to watch each other after a while, and it was totally quiet, and just like looking at each other, and there was like a touching of hands, and it just stayed like that, developing into this beautiful, beautiful atmosphere of loving. And I think he took my hand and just took me to his room, and we just undressed, and we made love, and it was totally simple, totally without any interference, just being in that moment, allowing it to unfold, being, letting it be enjoyed, celebrated. And then I woke up in the morning, he was gone, and I just left, and we never reconnected. I
mm,
saw him sometimes on the path, and our eyes would meet, and it just felt like that moment. But I understood something also that Bhagwan talks about. that it is possible when that space is available,
Mhm.
but there is no real person, but there's one energetic flow, to flow in that and allow it and live it. And it's incredibly beautiful and it's incredibly rich and sustaining. Just talking about it, and it is possible. And I felt around him and in other situations too, we get glimpses of these things. And they're like teachings. They're like, pay attention. This is how that feels. This is how that is. It is possible. Yeah.
When you're even talking about this right now, I could just sense so much calm inside me when you
Mm,
were talking about this incident. It just, my whole system kind of just like
yeah.
like that. So yeah, it's I think it stays with you, right? These moments, like it brings you back.
Yeah. And it's beautiful you say that, Radha, because that also, in a way, it clarifies that there is no real push and pull involved. There's no desire or wanting things to be other than what they are. And that makes for stillness. That's a very relaxed place. There's nothing to do. It's that non-doing place that does itself. And it's a total blessing and it's a grace that descends, and we cannot make it happen, but we can make ourselves available for it in many, many ways by
Yeah.
being to look at all the things that are in the way of that.
So just when the ranch was in the last days, and you mentioned this one incident when Bhagwan was giving interviews to all the international people, journalists who had come there. There were ATF guards around surrounding the ranch. Um, it was a scary situation, right? I mean, you never knew. And you also mentioned that after a few years in Waco, Texas, there was a similar situation where people were shot, people who were on in that commune. Um, how was it for you? Were sitting right very close to him when he was giving this interview, and he was talking, and you describe how there was fury and rage in his eyes, and suddenly there was also this calmness. You write it much better than I ask you, so you tell me.
Yeah, that was right at the end. Yeah, it was very, it was strange also because we started seeing footage from news reels, and it was very different focus than we had had. It was
Mm-hmm.
strange to suddenly get all that thrown at us,
Mm-hmm.
and it was out there that this is what's happening there. I had no idea this was what was happening there. I didn't experience what they showed on the TV. But anyway, there was going to be this big press conference, and some of us got invited. Many people were invited to come in and be part of it, and I somehow got put right in front of Bhagwan, and he was very fiery. And my mom had been writing me. She wrote, "Get out of there before you get killed.
Mm-hmm.
The National Guard is all over the place. Get out of there, please." So I had gotten this fear in me, and I was sitting there with Bhagwan, and he was being very provocative and very out there, and I was scared. And then I got to go somewhere. Where am I going to go? And I went through this whole process inside of myself. But where do I want to go? But what about here? And what about everything that I care about and everything that's important to me? That is here. That is in this context. So I went very, very quickly through a lot of fear and a lot of confusion and a lot of like chaos inside of myself. And suddenly something landed in me. He felt like he was insane, Bhagwan. He felt like, why is he stirring things up so strongly? Why is he doing this? And it felt unsafe to me.
Mm-hmm.
So that was what I was dealing with. My own fear was really up. And when fear is up, you have not a lot of access to something deeper.
Mm-hmm.
That was what happening. So there was some kind of inquiry going on inside of me. Just simply like, what is the most important thing? What is the most important thing? Is it to get away alive, or what is the most important thing? And suddenly it was like, this is the most important thing. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like, and suddenly I was back in the heart. Not my heart, but the heart. Suddenly I was like, my head was disengaged suddenly. It had gotten enough spin. And there was this dropping. like Brahmana talks about it, many talks about it, you drop from the head into the heart.
Mm.
Somehow that happened for some reason. And it was like, suddenly there was not a madman there. There was complete stillness up there where Bhagwan was speaking. And there was like this sense of just a gentle giggling and like these provocative swords being thrown out. And I felt completely still inside and completely in loving.
Mm.
And it was like, wow, what is this? What is this mind? What is this fear? What is this different levels we can widen into? That was a big teaching for me. That it's not what's happening on the outside necessarily, it's who in here is experiencing, is hooking into what's happening on the outside. What level is hooking in? Is it my conditioning? Is it my ego? Is it my, that has all the fear in it? Or is there something else going on? And how do we connect it? What is it? What is it that connects us back? And for me, I think it is what is the most important thing, Often when there's conflict, I mean, that's just falling out of your question now, but in a way I can see that with conflict, what is the most important thing? And for me, it's always love. It is so painful not to be cut off from love in myself and love in the bigger space, So that often becomes my incentive to drop some defense or some righteousness or some closure. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
You also write about how people, when the ranch closed and you all had to leave, there's a small chapter you write about how we can blame and say, this happened, that happened, but there was something else going on. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I feel very grateful for that whole experience. I mean, extremely grateful. And I feel it was an amazing opportunity to experience some sort of real life
Mm-hmm.
situation
Mm-hmm.
with politics and with all these different aspects and what creates all that. And I saw so much of what creates all that. I think I wrote also, I think you saw some of it, but where I'd been to Jesus Grow and Sheila had said some things that really scared me. And Mike, a person had mentioned that to her later, that I was really scared of her
Mm-hmm.
or scared of that. And she called me out in a coordinators meeting, a big coordinators meeting, and said, I've heard that Nidhi is scared of me. And it was like,
Mm-hmm.
it was like, oh my God, with all these people there. And I had somebody behind me that I love. This person, he's gone, Siddha. He was sitting behind me, him and his girlfriend. And I had to stand up. I had to speak. And I just took the mic, and I was like this. And I said, yeah, when I heard that you said that down this ago, I just felt so scared of you. And, to actually allow myself to be with that energy and to feel it and to expose it is the healing for me. It's like, but there is so much fear in me. That was my mother, my scary mother, and we all have these different situations. It's an opportunity to learn these things in an environment where it's still possible, But for me, it also taught me that fear that I have and that we have creates the society that we create. If I don't have that fear, if nobody can scare me into doing anything that doesn't feel right, if I'm in touch with what feels right, which I was because there was something stirring, and I have the space and the ability to say, no, that doesn't work for me. This does not feel right, What I want in my life is this. How I want to create is this. But we don't have that maturity. And that's okay. We don't have it. So we need to see we don't have it. We cannot just tell somebody to make the perfect society for us and then we'll move into that. It won't work because it's not who we are. We create the society we are,
Yeah.
you know. So that is such a huge learning I mean, there were so many sides of myself that I didn't know. We don't know them. It's not like we're doing something wrong. We just are not in touch with these underground places that somehow makes our life go into certain things that is not necessarily what we're hoping for, you know.
Mm,
And I thought we had such an amazing chance to learn that. And for me, I'm just very grateful for it. People can use it how they want and they can, blame situations, but I don't find it helpful.
mm,
It's going to help me that somebody did something wrong. There's going to be something else who did something wrong.
mm,
There's always somebody who's doing something wrong. I mean, bless us all. I mean, we cannot not do something wrong, but it's like, then can we see it? Can we take responsibility for it? Can we take it home and see what I really want is this kind of home? But to get this kind of home, I need to be more transparent. I need to be more honest. I need to be more aware of my weak points and what in me creates the situation on the outside. What is my responsibility in this situation? And what I loved about it, like, when I saw the Netflix thing, I loved that some of the people at the ranch that had been involved had a beautiful vulnerability in their exploration of what had happened and they're part of it.
mm,
I think that is very rare. You don't see that on the political scene a
mm,
whole lot.
mm,
That somebody who has been doing something that hurt other people to a large degree,
mm,
um, some drive in them and some unconsciousness, that they actually go, I am so sorry. And I see this now. I see this thing in me that was driving me.
yeah,
That is how we get to a society that's different, I find.
yeah,
It takes a lot of guts
mm,
and a lot of commitment,
yeah.
devotion to the heart and to the truth somehow. It's huge. But
Big.
he gave us an opportunity. We had an opportunity there. You
Mm,
know, we can see many things about it that wasn't working
mm,
but it was working as a big teaching. Who knows if what he really wanted was to build a city for us
yeah.
to be isolated. I don't know. That could have been part of something very beautiful where people could have come and seen it working. But it doesn't work unless there is a spiritual teacher or somebody that is the heart of it all. If that's gone, we need to create it on our own. It has to be the hearts of us all, or there needs to be a strong force of that we can bring to it. Otherwise, we're going to get into these other things. I think it's a big question and an important question for the future. How are we gonna make our lives in the way that we see really serves us, that we really want? How are we gonna love each other and not kill each other?
Yeah. I think it's beautiful what you said because, the way I see it, and I'll share a small incident with you. I
Please,
did
please.
not know much about Osho. I knew him because I grew up in Pune, of course. But I saw Wild Wild Country, and that's when I actually connected with him. Before that, I was seeing his videos and reading things, but somewhere in my mind, it was like, oh, he's a sex guru. That's how I was told about him in the newspapers and the media. So when I was growing up, and you stay away from him, and uh, when I saw Wild Wild Country, I was blown away. I said, how can a bunch of people just go into a desert and build something so beautiful? And what they are doing is completely opposite of how the world is. You're not allowed to explore things, you're not allowed to have feelings. You always bottle up. And I was, before that also, I was falling in love with him, but I was like stopping myself. My logical mind was like, this wouldn't work for you. Just, stay away from this whole thing. But that documentary kind of, I thought it was mind blowing what all of you were accomplishing. The fact that this experiment was even allowed, I think, is an achievement for me.
Mhm.
That's how I see it. Because if you really see the world at large, it's a miracle.
Yeah, and you know what I love? I love that you see that serious and get that out of it.
Yeah.
That's pretty astounding. That says something about you because it's like And I love that too. I felt that when Netflix did that thing. I thought, this is very interesting. It's very lopsided, very one-sided, you know.
Yeah.
There's so much that wasn't shown, so
Mm-hmm.
much of the beauty and the, you know, what it really was.
Mm-hmm.
It was very focused on some very like controversial political aspects. But
Mm-hmm.
there's Radha seeing it, and she gets something totally different, you know. She gets something. And I remember Bhagwan saying long ago, doesn't matter, whatever it is, put it out. Any advertising, any, you know, it's all good. The people who needs to see this, to get attracted, to get touched, they will.
Mm-hmm. They will.
In a
Yeah.
way that confirms that. It's very interesting. It is very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I just hope after watching that, I don't see this world we live in as bad or whatever, but I feel that safety that that whole place allowed you. I just wish more and more people get to enjoy that, and
The
more,
safety.
yeah, the safety that that it's okay to say things. It's okay not to be a stereotypical. In certain situations, you have to say certain things, and in your mind, you know this is not my truth, but you still say it, because that's what is expected from you. And if you say something you really want to say, then you might be considered crazy, or most of the times you are considered crazy.
Yeah, yeah, and that's beautiful because then, like, we each individually have to see what is my need to be able to be more fully just who is here, you know, and like it may be safety. I think it's often, very often, safety. So how do we create just now, from now on, in
Mhm.
our own life, a place of safety? Is it with one person, with two people? Can we have a little group of people where we kind of decide together, this I would really like to have a
Mhm.
place where I can just be safe, you know. I mean, it's up to each one of us to do this, and
Yes.
that's, you know, that's the
I
inner
think
thing.
Bhagwan has opened the doors, and now it's your way. You find it. You let him work through it, or it's your determination, whichever way you want to see it. But the doors are open, and the road is yours. So
Yeah. No, I also want to say that it is also, like, I like what you say, because it is also something we have to treat with great care, you know, our own vulnerability and our own openness, to not just splash it out everywhere, because that can be very harmful to us. So it's beautiful that you also mentioned that, you know, because it's good and important to be aware.
yes, no, I
Okay.
like what you're adding, because definitely, um, knowing where to put your boundaries and where to like your body and your heart will tell you when it is safe, and your energies will tell you that, and with whom it is safe. And so yeah, but I
Yeah,
want
and
to,
to really listen, you know, to really listen. That's a
yeah,
good point too, to
yeah,
really listen.
not that you said this exactly, but what is this need for a mom? And you, in one of the chapters, you said you felt it around your neighbors, especially when I think your family was kind of threatening to disown you because you had taken sannyas, and
Okay,
there was a particularly nasty letter from your grandmother, and you
right.
felt like all these things. What is this connection with a mother, and this, why do we always feel this great need?
I think that's very natural as a human being, rather. It's like the navel is where we were connected. That was where we were in the ocean together with our mother. It's the mother is the ocean,
Mm,
you know? We come from that ocean, and we flow through the navel. That's how we sustain. That's our source. So that is a connection very strongly. And if that's not, you know, then it gets cut when we get born, but it's still alive. It's still alive, that connection. And if in some way it's been shocked or damaged or not fed or whatever it is, I think there's contraction in that area. You know, I mean, that's how I have experienced it. I've experienced that connection physically, and I also explore very much physical. That's very much my way, to feel where things are in my body. Like, it's very physical. And that can come very strong. And then there's this tension in the belly, way, way in the belly. It's not something you can touch from the outside. And that's the thing. That's also why it takes time. Some of this stuff takes so much time. And you just need to not be in a hurry with it. It just needs, whatever, darling, whenever you're ready, sort of thing, you know.
Sometimes,
So
maybe lifetimes.
lifetimes, for sure.
Mm.
Exactly. You know, so a bigger picture. But that's what I felt there. And I think that's something that I've touched later on too, when I got in touch with this really deep tension inside, and my body would just like really speak from there. And there'd be big releases that released me into a freedom, into something bigger, because there was suddenly enough safe space in my connection with the wider love, whatever you want to call it, with God, with, for that place to relax enough to let go and let that fear, that terror really of being annihilated
Mm.
happen, and then free. I don't know if that makes sense to you. That's the best way I can explain it. It's almost like we have these places inside that are holding on for good life, and we don't even know that they're there.
Mm.
But they're stopping flow in one way or another. We maybe get sick there, or we get whatever. There's something that can't quite flow. And it just takes the time it takes, and when it's ready, something can open up and let go. And it's usually a place that has just had to do that, because what was in that experience, in that place, was untenable. It was not possible at the stage of development we were in. We could not live it, you know. So later it has to be somehow reborn. Yeah.
Also, I was very, very moved by this chapter when you were with your mother during her last days. And there are few very important things that you touched in those chapters. One is you took care of your mother. There was a softening there. She allowed you inside some of her walls. You did not send her to a hospital and force her to undergo a treatment she did not want to. You realized um, that she cannot do it, and you stayed by her side in spite of all these deep wounds and traumas that were associated to her for you. How were you able to do all this?
It, it's like I didn't see her like that anymore at that time in my life. It was like I had been through so much healing. Like I felt her life had not been easy. It's like I loved her very much. I always loved her. Like I adored her in my heart, you know. But it was so impossible to live that love. I couldn't put it out to her because she would push it away. And it
Mm.
was so incredibly painful and scary to have that not wanted, you know. It was like who I was. She hated it, you know. So to slowly over time realize that that's not the case at all. That is not the case at all. It was her own wounding, you know, probably somewhere deep in her she wanted to love too, but couldn't. And how painful that is for her. So
Mhm.
there was so much softening around, much more kind of compassion for our humanness, you know, and what we do. And we had much healing in the last years before she died. And close to her death, some very strong parts of her conditioning or her ego would come up. And I was determined not to back off. I would stay with her, you know, and at some point she said, "You killing me," you know. And I just really stayed in myself saying, "No, I'm not killing you. I never was killing you." It was like I got to speak so much of what had needed to be said in my heart, but from a place not of attack, from
Mm.
a place of just in a way deep care for myself and for her, you know. The truth is that I'm not killing you. It's something else inside, you know. And she was opening to it. She was being amazing. I mean, what happened with my mom in the last 2 weeks was unbelievable. I don't know who this woman was. I mean, she was huge. That's also what I feel. This was, we don't know who we are. I
Mm.
don't know who she was. She was this big thing, big person. And yeah, it was very beautiful. Also to be in the whole process with her and see how she would go in and out of some completely different place. She would just be lying there, and I was just in the room with her, breathing with her, being with her. And there was so much love there. And she had a whole thing with her husband that was like, whoa, where she just totally felt like she's enlightened to me. And it's another whole thing. But also, like, at the very end, the last night we were together, and she said, she just sat there and she looked at me, and she was so beautiful, just so beautiful. And she said, so how do we die? How do I die? And I thought of, oh, the bardo. I know the bardo. And I thought, no, Didi, you can't do that. You cannot give her some teaching. And I looked at her and said, I don't know. She said, it's good. We just be here. So it was like so much presence. It was like being in darshan.
Mm.
It's like totally. And it was the sweetest, most beautiful couple of hours before she fell asleep there. And then the next day she died. But it was golden. Golden, so in the moment and just enjoying being together, so much love. She held my hand. She did all these things that she never does. She touched my cheek. Oh, and there was just like, and I didn't want her to die. That I felt. And I felt like, because it was like, finally, I'm getting this contact that I wanted. So I had to be very clear in myself and let her go, not try to hold on in any way. But that was where I can still feel it. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's such a gift. And I'm so grateful that we could get there in this round, in this life. It just feels like she's on my side so much. I feel her so much. She came last night and visited me. And she's like this beautiful, you're just like, so, yes, behind me. Yeah. It's such a mystery, isn't it? It's such a mystery. Why we here, why we come in, what we promise each other. We come
Mm.
beloveds and we say, okay, I'll play that role for you so you can do this.
Mhm.
And then we fight each other for 40 years or 60 years and maybe ongoing. But I'm so glad we didn't have to keep going with that.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's what I thought was so beautiful about this experience. Death can expedite things in such the scale, that sometimes it could have taken you lifetimes to reach that place. Um, and as you said, you come back in different roles and try to resolve those things. But there were three things that, and I urge everyone who watches this, whenever Nidhi's book comes out, she's still in the process of writing, but whenever it comes out, do read it. It has some very beautiful moments, events, and the way she articulates it in the book is amazing. So in this chapter, her last days with her mother, there were a few things that stood out to me. That you stayed with her and you took care of her in the house. You did not send her to the hospital, because all this could unfold when there was that space. And instead of like numbing her with medications, you decided to go a very holistic way. Like you also tried marijuana. Your husband tried to give her marijuana, which is pain management basically, and it helped her. And I find this beautiful because find people, they don't want to deal with death, and they just kind of, whatever is the easiest way out, you send the person, your loved one, to a hospital, and kind of. So yeah, just go into that whole process, how the marijuana and the hospice nurse, if you can tell us. And I
Yeah.
guess I'm not advocating that you shouldn't take treatments or go to hospital,
Right.
but this is another way, and that's what we are talking here, me and Nidhi, right now.
Yeah, Radha, I think like one thing that is important is that I wasn't so scared of death anymore. Not that there's the unknown. It's very unknown. It's very It's very right there, you know. But I had been very afraid of death.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done a lot of work with death and a lot of confronting death. And it had taught me so many things. And I was very determined
Mm-hmm.
to not shy away from death, to really look and feel and see. So when my mom, she got so sick and she was just lying on the floor, she couldn't get up. And she said, "You have to send me to the hospital." And this little one had been so much left in hospitals. I was not about to do that. I just couldn't do it. I didn't want to do it. I wanted to take care of her. I wanted to care. And her reaction to that was really beautiful. I think she was really grateful for that. And she showed it, you know, because she had this, I don't want anybody to take care of me, but she let me take care of her. And that was an incredible gift that she let me care for her, you know. So that was such a joy to be able to do that. And Sangeet was there too a lot, you know. And Sangeet was has done work with like medical marijuana, and he said, "Why don't we give her some? Why don't we try it?" And he asked her, and she said, "Yes." She was totally. She's always been up for just bring it on, you know. So she was. She was the one. She didn't want medication. She was incredibly clear.
Mm-hmm.
She was very clear. And she has a very high pain level. She was not a whimper, you know. Like if you say, she was much more like, "No, I don't want anything." And she didn't want anything, but it also got very bad. So he tried and he made something for her that she could use and put into something. And it was amazing. It was like it brought her in touch with another space, a more expanded space, more her spiritual ground.
Mm-hmm.
It gave her a much vaster view, and it was so beautiful. It's something in her really relaxed through that. I feel very, very grateful for that happening. And I really find that it can have amazing supportive qualities. And I was very upset at that time that they kind of forbade using it. And, you know, it feels so wrong. It feels like it's such an ally to help, to help us, if that's what feels attractive, to help us connect to something that's more than our body, so that gives us the relaxation that we can let go. And she let go into beautiful spaces that also stayed with her when she was not taking marijuana. But I felt it really opened a door for her. So in that way, was that the question?
Yeah, so uh, yeah, the basically the how Mariona helped her, and also the hospice, the very humane way actually, where you how you handled the whole situation of death instead of just clinical surgical way. Um,
Yeah,
and
yeah, she was. It was interesting. I remember, I remember this first hospice nurse came, and she said, "Thank you for allowing us to be part of your death." My mom said, "Oh, shut up." That was like, she was so out there. She was so real in a way, you know, my mom. She was not like, she didn't have a language for all this stuff. She was just very real. And that also meant like when she was opening up, that was very real too and very beautiful. You
Mm,
know, when her love came through and her presence came through, it was so real and so profound. Yeah. You know, and when she finally left, it was so incredible. It was so light and it was so lit. And she had some black pearls she would always wear, which are kind of silvery. And the whole essence in the room, I just felt like that was what it was. It was that pearl, black pearlesque essence that just rose up. And that was a sense of just like, oh, oh, you know, it was beautiful, really beautiful.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have been, yeah, we have gone almost to 1 hour, 45 minutes. We'll be wrapping up, but this was a beautiful way of ending this conversation, which I have thoroughly enjoyed with you, thoroughly. Not only this conversation, even the chapters you sent me from your book, and I got to read and understand more about life through you. I'm in a lot of gratitude and love with you, honestly. I feel this great love for the being you are. Um, and
Mm.
especially after reading the chapter with your mother, it made me so emotional, that something this beautiful can happen even towards the end of life, and something we think so scary in our lives, death, can present us this opportunity to make it beautiful, very beautiful. So thank you so much for
Oh, uh,
coming and just um, participating so wholeheartedly in this whole process. The way you have touched me, I hope your book touches many people when they read it, and they can see the beautiful person you are.
this is so mutual, Radha. I am in love with you. Totally. Your being, just the way you reach out, the way you approach things. I feel so gifted by this process with you. You know, it just feels like such a being to being, caring flow of mystery. You know, just you reaching out to me just felt so timely, and you've been such an inspiration for me. And just the purity I feel from you. You come from such a pure heart, such a pure place.
Yeah,
And it's beautiful being energetically connected like this. I love it. And I very much hope we will continue to
yeah,
connect
me too. I'm
more.
in love with Osho, and anyone who's lived with Osho is like, so
Exactly.
yeah, it's a heart to heart. Thank you for giving us your time, and I hope to see you again.
Thank you, Radha, for what you're doing. This beautiful calling in people to share this whole energy and space. I think it's a real gift. Thank you. Mm-mm.
Have a good day.
Joe.